My mom died when I was 6 years old. My dad ended up turning to one of his good friends, Anna, and they ended up getting married a year later. Anna brought up the idea of adopting me on the wedding day. It was something my dad was all for, but I went nuts when she mentioned it to me, and I spoiled the rest of the wedding. For the next year, we did this really intense therapy where I was told over and over again by the therapist and them that I needed a mom, that it would provide safety for me, and that it was not a betrayal of my mom to accept another loving mom into my life. Finally, the therapist put the recommendation to the court for approval, but when the judge spoke to me, I told him that I would run away and that I would do everything to never come back. I was 8 at the time and meant business. He asked me why I didn't want to be adopted. He listened. And when he addressed the court again, he denied the adoption request and told my dad and Anna that until I was on board, no adoption would be approved in his court. They did try again, requesting a different judge, but received the same response. I was constantly asked to change my mind. Anna would put her all into trying to fill the place of a mom in my life. Every time I told her she could never be my mom, she took it as a challenge to try harder and better, and she would dedicate so much time to me that it was crazy. I never appreciated it because instead of just being Anna and my dad telling her to just be Anna, she saw mom as the only thing she wanted. Even when she had kids of her own, I was their oldest son and I was her son, her boy. So she called herself a boy mom, etc., whereas I have never called her mom. If we're being honest, I don't even love her after all these years. I see her as an intrusive family member who won't stop. My relationship with my dad is also not the best because I don't particularly appreciate that he won't take no for an answer, and he was so quick to try and push an adoption. Even after I told him I'd rather be with my grandparents, or an aunt or uncle or close family friend to Anna if he died, he insisted being with Anna, and her being my mom was the best for me. I turned 18 a few months ago and I ran like I was on fire to get away from Dad and Anna. I lived with my maternal grandparents for a little while before moving in with my maternal uncle who lived near a good apprenticeship I wanted to join. My paternal grandparents celebrated their wedding anniversary this past weekend, and I was there. While there, Anna approached me and handed me papers for adult adoption. She told me she loved me and she wanted me to know it wasn't too late, that she would still adopt me and that she wanted to make our relationship official as mother and son. I asked her how she could be so delusional when I said no to being adopted for 11 years. I said to her face I would not change my mind. She and my dad were so angry at my choice of words, and chaos ensued at the party. Am I the idiot? Jesus, that was a horrible move to pull at a family event. You are not the idiot, OP. People need to learn what no means. They tried to get another judge to ignore your wishes, which is the biggest one for me. You said no, so they hired a whole therapist to convince you. You didn't say anything about needing therapy, so it sounds like that was literally the only reason. Your dad is kind of the idiot for rushing into a relationship and marrying a year after your mom's death and not giving everyone time to grieve. I get you exploded, but how many times could you say no until someone listens? It seems, oddly enough, like some challenge for her that she wants to win. Yeah, so they hired a therapist to work against your interests actively. Bold strategy. We see how it played out. Her continued insistence and how she goes about it all these years is sus. Is there a deeper and hidden reason for her insistence? What else does she stand to gain if you accept, or lose if you refuse? Hold your ground. At this point, it's harassment. I think you need to get a Mother's Day gift for Anna. A copy of the court declaration that you have legally changed your last name to your late mother's maiden name. Rotten flowers and a dead rubber wrap with a card written, with thinking of you optional. That's so petty, I know, but Stepmom should take the hint and don't come around here no more. This is wonderfully petty, but please don't do this. You might consider checking to see what the laws are where you live around inheritance. A living spouse will inherit the entire estate when their partner dies. This may not be the case if there are living children for whom the surviving spouse is not an adoptive parent. Your dad's wife may have ulterior motives here, depending on what the law says. My wife and I currently live with my mom. It's super embarrassing and believe me, we're trying to get out, but we have no option for the moment. My mom and my wife have never gotten along and my mom is a crappy mother-in-law. So I'm on my wife's side 100% and shut it down when my mom starts. Sunday was my wife's birthday and my wife is huge on birthdays. We had a whole day planned and I had some extra surprises. I know from previous years that she has sky-high expectations for birthdays and gets disappointed if there's any setback. We were getting ready to go out and my mom fell down the stairs. It was totally her fault. She was running in heels. Obviously, we both went to her, but she was adamant that she didn't need help. I told her that she needed to go to the emergency room as she couldn't move her wrist and was quite literally withering in pain. I felt I had to offer to drive her as she can't drive with one arm, and I've heard you can't use Uber if you're clearly injured for liability reasons. I saw my wife's face fall, but it just felt like what I was supposed to do. My mom declined and I asked her how she would get there. She said she didn't know, but she didn't want a ride from me, so we went out for the day. But my wife told me I was insensitive for the asking. When we returned home to change for our big evening out, my mom was back from the hospital. Her friend drove her. She was looking for something to eat but hadn't done the week's shopping and was struggling to find something she could get on her own. I offered to make her something. At first she declined but then gave in. When my wife came down, I said I'd be ready in a few minutes and she looked incredibly hurt. It was just grilled cheese and it didn't take that long. Also, my mom had been at the ER for hours and hadn't eaten. Before we left, I asked if she needed anything and she said no. The moment we got to the car, my wife accused me of catering to my awful mother on her birthday. I pointed out it was an unforeseen emergency and she told me my mother being stupid and running downstairs shouldn't be my priority. She said my mom has her partner. He was out of state and did offer to fly home but wouldn't have made it until early the following day anyway, so he still couldn't have given her a ride or made her dinner, and she can't forgive me for making her second fiddle to my mom on her birthday. So, am I the idiot? Unless we believe that your mother faked her injury, this is a no-brainer and your wife is being blatantly callous and jealous. It's an injury. She needed the literal ER and couldn't feed herself. Let's not be silly, it was a medical emergency. You and your wife both stay with your mother for free, but her needing help getting food after an injury is a ridiculous convenience that nearly ruined the whole day. Your wife is an idiot for that. And while I'm really glad you made your mum food, you're an idiot for not stopping that nonsense immediately. Pretty sure the wife is the problem here. God forbid a severely injured woman that is giving you a place to live is a priority. Your mom should kick both out. That was beyond cruel. Hopefully mom's husband steps up and kicks them out. Just step over your mother's body so we can get my birthday celebration started. Your wife sounds like a psycho. I'd like to add how your wife wants a grand birthday when you can't even afford to live by yourselves. Yeah, makes you wonder how they got there. It's a mystery for sure. Almost like there's probably a string of poor financial choices. Dude, it's not like you can ever say no to your wife about spending money because that's financial abuse. Grow a backbone. I, female 22, have my mom living with me. My father passed away a few years ago and she has no other family in the States, but she didn't want to move back home. My dad's sister, my aunt, recently visited and brought her son, 23. He's moving to the States for work. They're also staying with us. Our family is fairly well off back home and I do very well here, but in our culture, men are valued above women. My cousin is an entitled jerk and his mom treats him like a prince. He wanted to borrow one of my cars to tour the city. I asked him how much experience he had with electric cars. He said not a lot. I said, no, period. I like my car. So I was at work when my mom called. He took the car without permission and crashed it in a parking lot. A single vehicle accident, thank God, and he wasn't hurt. But my car is trashed. Body damage and the battery is toast. So I asked him for his information so I could start my claim. It turns out the little idiot doesn't have his license, so I asked his mom how she wanted to handle it. She said that accidents happen and we should all be happy he wasn't hurt. I pulled out my phone and asked Google how to report my car stolen. This would cause problems for his visa and life. So she started crying and saying that I was a terrible daughter and that my father would be ashamed of me for trying to get my cousin in trouble. So I said she had to pay for the damages if she didn't want me to do it. The car is a write-off. It's 2 years old. She ended up giving me the money for it. It means that my cousin will have to rent, boo-hoo, instead of having a down payment for a home here. His dad is angry at him, not me. My mom says I can afford to replace the car and I'm hurting my family, but I don't care. I really like my car. Not the idiot. Your cousin owes you a usable car. Even if the car is a write-off, you'd still have been able to use it if your cousin didn't wreck it. Besides, if your cousin wants to come to the States on a work visa, he needs to follow the basic rules like not driving without a license. It's impressive your uncle was angry at your cousin and not you. He's angry at his son because his son just embarrassed the crap out of him. He lost face. No wonder he felt entitled to steal a car and drive without a license. His mommy has been enabling him his entire life. He's lucky he didn't hurt anybody. It wasn't like he just hit something lightly. Maybe he'll learn something from it, or it won't end up so simply next time. My wife has a weekly book club with her friends, and I'm happy she takes the time to enjoy her hobbies and connect with friends. The issue is that she volunteered to host the club in our home, and I'm not allowed to be there while they're meeting. So while I don't mind busying myself for an hour once in a while, they meet weekly for 3 to 4 hours at a time. She says there's a no men rule because the women share private things, which I understand and respect, but I also don't think it's fair for them to expect me to get kicked out of my own home for most of my weekend. Especially since I work 6 days a week, we both work, but I work more days, and I only have that one Saturday off. I also prefer to spend the extra time playing video games, so it's not like I can take my computer to Starbucks with me. I've offered to put on headphones and stay in the bedroom, but she says the women will still feel my presence. I've asked if the women could take turns hosting, but she says all of the women have reasons why they can't host, including, which I thought was irritating, some of their husbands not wanting to leave home for so many hours. I've also asked if they could meet at a coffee shop and even offered to help pay to rent a meeting room somewhere, but she said they felt more comfortable in a home. This has been going on for 2 months now, and last week I told my wife I couldn't keep this up anymore, and she had to find a solution herself, because I've given her so many options already and gave her the heads up that I wasn't leaving this weekend. I think she thought I was bluffing, but come Saturday, I stayed home. Out of respect, I stayed in the bedroom when everyone came over, but they knew I was there, and I could tell the meeting got cut short because of that. My wife and I got into a huge row afterward, and here we are now. She's not talking to me, and I'm pretty angry, but I'm not sure who's really in the wrong here. Not the idiot, you are right. It's a bit much to be kicked out of the house every week. You've offered compromises, and it's not been well received. That makes your wife the idiot. I reckon you should arrange a boys' night with sport and all and tell her she needs to leave. Yeah, what on earth is that about? The women will sense the essence of a man in the house. They'll detect an aura of maleness and be put on edge knowing that a, gasp, man is somewhere in the building. I completely get why, in some situations, some women may, due to past trauma, not feel comfortable around a man they don't know. But this is not one of those situations. This is their friend's husband in his own home. And it's not like he's sat there in the middle of things. He's off in another room doing his own thing. Something about this whole scenario just doesn't feel right. I can't even put it into words, which is so frustrating. But yeah, something is off here. Opie's wife is being exceptionally inconsiderate and selfish. She chose the day to accommodate everyone in the book club except her husband. And she's being more considerate to the husbands of her club mates than her own. I have to wonder what this woman is thinking. If my spouse showed more consideration to their club members and their spouses than me, we would have a big problem. I think this is some kind of flex for her. Their husband won't leave, but I have mine wrapped around my little finger. Plus, it is obvious they're talking crap about their husbands during this club, maybe even about some indiscretions. Dude, you're at work 6 days and the only day your wife can host a book club that takes up a third of the day is your day off? My man, your wife doesn't want you around. This is intentional. I, female 18, live with my mum and stepdad and my older sister Lily, 24. Lily is around 6 months pregnant with her first baby and moved back in after her boyfriend dumped her. After a long day at uni lectures, I came home and made myself dinner. After putting it on a plate, I left it in the kitchen while I went to the toilet, and I got distracted because the family dog needed to be led outside to go pee. When I returned to the kitchen, Lily had eaten my dinner. I told Lily that was my dinner and she just stared at me in silence. So I went to go make some cup noodles and told Lily this was annoying. Lily said she was hungry and said she was eating for two and told me to shut my mouth. I started yelling at Lily and told her she should be apologizing after eating my dinner and that maybe she should learn how to cook for herself if she's so damn hungry. Lily started screaming at me like a demon to the point where I didn't understand what she was saying and grabbed my noodles and threw them out the window, leaving me dinnerless and noodleless. Then Lily stormed out and went into her room. I told my mum and stepdad what had happened, as they were very confused by the commotion. My mum told me I escalated the situation by yelling at her and by my comments, and I should apologise to Lily and that she's probably just hormonal. I don't think Lily is owed an apology. I think she was just being a jerk. But what do you guys think? Not the idiot. It was your food. She stole it. Pregnant women do not eat for two. 300 more calories per day is the usual thing we hear at the clinic I work for. That's like a protein bar, not your dinner. And if she can't cook, what? Is the kid going to eat trash all the time? I wouldn't even talk to anyone in your house until they come around. Unhinged. No amount of hormones makes you lose your ability to reason. Your sister chose to act on her impulses, whether motivated by hormonal changes or not, which is a deliberate decision. She ate your dinner, didn't apologize for it, then screamed at you, then ruined your second dinner. You don't owe her any apologies whatsoever. She owes you 3. Wonder why her boyfriend dumped her. She seems so nice. Being pregnant is not an excuse to eat other people's food and definitely not an excuse to be an idiot to your sister. Your mom is also an idiot for backing up someone who stole your food and threw a second meal out of the window after she was super rude when you told her what she did wasn't cool. Gotta get yourself on-campus housing or something.